Space, the final frontier. This is the Observer's Notebook, the official podcast of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. Its mission to explore the solar system, to seek out new observations and data, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. And now the host of the Observer's Notebook, Tim Robertson.
Welcome to a supplemental edition of the Observer's Notebook podcast, the official podcast of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. I'm Tim Robertson, the host of the Observer's Notebook and also the coordinator of the training program within the ALPO. Thanks for downloading and listening. The ALPO collects and analyzes observations of various solar system bodies and associated phenomena, and publishes detailed reports concerning these bodies in its quarterly publication, the Journal of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. This podcast survives upon donations from you, our listeners. If you enjoy what you hear on the podcast, you can donate to it via Patreon. You can give as little as $1 a month. If you feel even more generous, for $5 you receive early access to the podcast before it goes public. For a monthly donation of $10, you receive a copy of the Novice Observer's Handbook. And for $35 a month, you receive 1 year's membership to the ALPO and producer credits on the podcast. You can help us out by going to www.patreon.com/observersnotebook. And if you'd like to join the ALPO, membership begins at only $18 a year. You can find out more at www.alpo-astronomy.org. And we're also on Facebook. Just search for ALPO Astronomy. And yes, this podcast also has a Facebook page as well. Just search for the Observer's Notebook. And if you enjoy what you hear in the podcast, please subscribe. That way you'll never miss any episode. And now, this special supplemental edition, where we're going to talk about the upcoming Geminids Meteor Shower with Bob Lunsford. Hope you enjoy. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody back to this special edition of the Observer's Notebook. And today we're going to talk about the Geminids Meteor Shower. And of course, that means we're talking to Bob Lunsford. Welcome back, Bob.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Now, why don't you give us a little bit of an update on what we can expect and when is the Geminids?
Well, unlike last year, which we had absolutely no moon, where this year's shower is going to be a little compromised, but all's not lost. We all know the Geminids are active every December,
right? And
they tend to peak on the night of either December 13 or 14 every year. Well, this year on the morning of December 14th, we have an 80% gibbous moon. Oof. But it sets between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning.
So, perfect.
Yeah, well, not perfect, but better than having a coincidence with exactly the full moon, right, when it be up all night. So once the moon is low or sets in the west and you have dark skies, the Geminid radiant will still be at least 60 degrees high in the west. So what that means is you still have a very good opportunity to see at least a meteor a minute if you have a truly dark sky.
Great. I'm going to be camping out in Borrego Springs.
Oh, that sounds
week.
Great.
So that's one of the dark sky sites in California.
Yeah.
So I'll be out there for that, and I plan on getting all my camping buddies up at 2 a.m. to watch this.
Well, hopefully the weather will cooperate. This weather's been super so far in November, and we just had a few clouds the last couple of days coming from the desert. So that's kind of naturally the new moon's occurring. So that's going to spoil that a little bit. But, we're still 2 weeks away. So anything can happen, especially here in California.
Right.
Now, as you get close to the maximum, which is a Tuesday morning, December 14th, if it looks like your night's going to be cloudy, by all means, go out the prior to the 14th. The nights of the 12th, Sunday night, the 12th, or Monday the 13th. Both of those nights are very good for the Geminids.
Okay.
And that those nights prior to the maximum will also offer a little more darkness because the moon will set probably about 45 minutes earlier each night. So that helps a little bit. So if you got a storm heading your way on the 14th and it's not meteors, circle the 12th and the 13th. On the other hand, if it's after the maximum, boy, the Geminid rates drop like a rock.
Really?
At least half by the 15th and another half by the 16th. So, if you're seeing 60 on the 14th per hour, it's going to be down to at least 30 on the 15th and only 15 an hour by the 16th.
Okay.
So
this shower lasts really a long time, though, doesn't it? I mean, really, from when it really starts to where it ends.
You're exactly correct on that, and we've actually discovered recently that there was a minor shower called the Theta Aurigates, and that shower turns out to be early Geminids, because we can plot the radiant drift for these showers.
Okay,
and that one coincides perfectly with the early Geminids. So actually, you can start detecting Geminids as early as November 19th, and you can follow them up to just the day before Christmas. Christmas Eve is about the last chance you could see any Geminids. But of course, at those extremes, we're talking about maybe one meteor per night instead of 60 an hour. So there's a big difference there.
Now that's pretty unusual, though, isn't it, for most meteor showers?
Actually, with all the video work we're doing now, where we're finding out that a lot of these minor showers are associated with the major ones. So no, it's not that surprising, and we're finding out that the activity periods are a lot longer than the normal. Like I said, thanks to these video cameras that can see faint meteors and don't fall asleep like some of us folks do out in the middle of the night. So
if we get up at 3:00 in the morning on the morning of the 13th, where are we going to look?
Okay, actually, that'll be the night before the maximum, so we want the morning of the 14th.
Okay.
If it's at 3:00, the moon will be gone. You can look anywhere in the sky, but you will notice that most of the meteors, and I say most because not all meteors you see that morning are going to be Geminids, because there's a lot of other minor activity going on. Plus, the sporadic rates are pumping out about a dozen an hour, so that certainly helps. So look anywhere you want, probably toward the darkest sky that doesn't have trees or hills in your way. And you will notice that you'll see a bunch of meteors shooting from one area of the sky, which is probably about 60 to 50 degrees high in the west. And that'll be the Geminids. The radiant on that night is very close to the bright star Castor in Gemini.
Okay.
And if you ever do any work in double stars, you'll notice that's one of the best double stars in the sky.
True.
Very easily visible to the naked eye. In fact, there's two bright stars, Castor and Pollux, are very close together, probably about 5 degrees apart. And they will be in the west. The meteors will be shooting out of the radiant. If you look directly at Castor, the meteors will be foreshortened, which means they'll be coming. The ones that appear close to the radiant will be shorter and coming more at you. So they'll be a little more difficult to see, rather than 90 degrees away, which would be the longest meteors you'll see from the Geminids.
Okay.
So what we do is we suggest that folks put the radiant at the edge of their vision when they're looking. That way you can see a good sample of Geminid meteors shooting out at least 180 degrees out of the radiant.
Okay. Now at its maximum, how many do we expect to see?
Well,
under good seeing conditions.
Under good seeing conditions, if we're talking about 3:00 again, I would say 60 an hour.
Oh, okay.
The radiant won't be overhead like it is at 1:30, but at that time you're going to have moonlight too. So
Okay. And unlike most meteor showers too, that's not one a minute. That is, you'll have a series of 6 or 7 appear, and then you'll have a leg, right?
Exactly. I can't tell you how many people go out for 10 minutes and say, I didn't see a thing.
Right.
You guys are full of it.
Yep.
Well, meteors are notoriously clumpy. They show up all at once or none at all. So it's not, not cyclical, like one every 60 seconds. No siree.
Yeah. Now, are these bright meteors?
You know what? Actually, most meteor showers are on the dim side. That makes up a large portion of them. But the more meteors that are produced, the more bright ones you will get.
Okay.
So if your skies are really dark, you're going to see a lot of faint ones, but you will also see more bright ones too. And the Geminids are, being normally the strongest shower of the year, they may have difficulty this year since the Perseids put on such a great show back in August. But since they're so strong, a higher percentage of the meteors will be bright. And what's really cool is you'll see some nice colors out of those meteors.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
And those colors are actually produced by the elements present in Geminid meteors. Now, that's not true for fast showers like the Perseids, because the Perseids actually ignite. I shouldn't say ignite, but they excite the atmospheric molecules up in the upper atmosphere. And what you're actually seeing then with these very, very fast meteors is ionized oxygen and nitrogen. So you're getting green meteors and pink meteors, mostly from the Perseids. Whereas if you see a green Geminid, chances are it's highly composed of nickel.
Well, most comets are. Most meteor showers are related to some comet, but this one's not.
Well, that's true, but we don't know for sure that this particular asteroid could have been a comet many eons ago. Right. It may be a dead comet now, but when it does pass near perihelion, we do see a tail on this particular asteroid.
Really?
So, asteroid/comet. So
okay. All right.
But yes, definitely it's in an asteroidal orbit.
Okay.
So but Jupiter is up out there bouncing these guys around.
Right.
So
changes the orbits of all of them.
Right. So definitely it was always thought to be an asteroid when it was discovered, but the equipment scientists are using these days get better and better, and they can actually detect particles of sodium getting blown off, creating a tail that's very reminiscent of a comet. So I'm not sure we can call it strictly an asteroid or strictly a comet. It's just kind of a progression from one to the other.
Yeah, I did a podcast earlier with Frank Maleo, who's our Mercury coordinator in the ALPO, and he brought up a point that Mercury has a tail, a sodium tail. And I'm like, really? Because they've done observations with Mercury to show that there's a little tail coming out from it.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. Wow.
Okay. So overall, the first half of December actually is one of the best times of the year to observe meteors. The moon will be new on December 4th, and it won't get full until the 18th. So during that period, when there is some darkness in the evening sky and the morning, there is a good chance to see a lot of meteor activity. It's one of my favorite times of the year because you can go out as early as 10 o'clock to midnight, and you have the showers from Taurus, Orion, Gemini, producing all kinds of activity.
Yeah.
So it's really entertaining. But if you want to really see the best show, concentrate on the morning of the 14th when the Geminids peak. if I could offer some advice, don't walk out there and stand and look halfway up in the sky because you're going to get cold and your neck's going to get sore. Find yourself a nice comfortable lounge chair.
This is my favorite part of observing meteors.
Okay, Tim, I didn't say bring a beer with you.
No, hot chocolate.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, that's hot chocolate's more suitable to the climate at this time of year, isn't it? But yeah, get comfortable and wear heavy clothing and bring that blanket. And hey, bring a friend too, because it's kind of boring to be out there alone. You'll hear all these bunnies in the bushes and think it's a coyote or something, Yeah.
Now we've talked about this before, but where should people go to really see a meteor shower?
Well, if you really want to see it, go to a mountaintop where you have no trees or anything blocking your view.
Mm-hmm.
And the air is thinner out there. What that means is the sky will be much more transparent than it is closer to sea level. And you'll be amazed. You'll have trouble picking out the constellations because there's so many stars in the sky. And the more stars you see, the more meteors you're going to see.
That's good. That's a good point. And also, with meteor showers, you don't need a telescope. You don't need binoculars. Like you mentioned, you just get your lounge chair out there and you kick back with a blanket, some hot chocolate, and look up. And that's really it.
Yeah. Now, most people just go out for the heck of it and enjoy the show like it's the 4th of July fireworks. But believe it or not, there is some crazy people out there that actually categorize every meteor they see.
They do science?
And do science.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's talk about how we can do science. Anybody that goes out there and observes a meteor shower.
Okay. You have to do a little work on this. You have to associate each meteor you see. So you need to tell us whether they're Geminids or whether they're just random activity. Now, that's a good starting point. If you can just do those two, that would be perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
But some of us can pick out the November Orionids or the Leonids, the December Leonids, and there's even Ursids in December.
And you can tell that by the radiant, where the meteors are coming from.
Believe it or not, I take a black shoestring out, and when I see something, I will hold that shoestring in front of the path that the meteor just passed. And by following that shoestring back to where the meteor started and even extending it further, I can tell exactly which radiant that meteor passed through.
That's a really cool way to do it. I never thought of that.
Now you think, well, why that dummy got black one instead of white? Actually, black, the sky is not perfectly black. A black shoestring shows up awesomely well against the dark sky. So
just find the radiant of because they come from I believe you said they come from this Castor, right?
Right.
Okay.
So every Geminid you see will come from Castor. If you stay focused on one part of the sky, all the Geminids will be parallel. They won't cross each other like a lot of the random activity.
Good point.
But they will have different lengths. That all depends on the size.
Mm-hmm.
Larger Geminids will create a longer streak, and the smaller ones are shorter and it probably fainter streak too. So, but what also helps us is to count how many Geminids you see in a particular amount of time. Now, the basic principle of meteor observing is how many meteors you see per hour.
Right.
So I'm not sure a lot of folks can stay out for a solid hour, especially if they're watching from Minnesota. But at least a half hour, that way we can multiply by 2 what you saw.
Right.
But, try to record how many of these you saw, how many random ones you saw. And what also is necessary is your sky conditions. Now, most of us sophisticated people use the zenith zenith star. What's the faintest star you could see?
Mm-hmm.
And that all depends on your location, whether you have a street light right next to your house or items like that. Where you're going, you're going to be at least have a limiting magnitude of probably about 6.5.
Yep.
Which is very, very dim star. Most people are a lot closer to 5.0. And if you're downtown somewhere, you're lucky to see probably third magnitude.
Oh yeah, second or third. Right.
So that's important. The better your conditions, the less of a correction you need to figure out your final figures. Some person where you're going is going to see a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, someone who's watching from downtown LA, their rates are going to have to be corrected, 2 or 3 times at least.
Right.
And believe me, it makes a difference. One magnitude can double the amount of meteor activity you see.
That's very true. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that, but that's something people should keep in mind too. If they plan on submitting observations to you, figure out what the limited magnitude is, where they're at,
right.
And that's fairly easy to do.
Right.
Get a little star chart. A lot of people use the Little Dipper for doing that.
Yes, that's a good one. That has some very faint stars.
Yep.
So if there's one star that you can barely see, find out that magnitude is probably going to be around 5.0 or 5.5, and that will tell us your sky conditions, which is very important. And be sure and record your starting and ending times,
right?
Because we don't want to be counting time when you're going to the restroom or something like that. Mm-hmm. We want to know exactly how much time you spent watching the sky. And be sure to mention any clouds or even some hills or something in a way. Like if 10% of your field of view is blocked, that's important. All of this is going to be in the upcoming Geminid article I'm going to post on the ALPO website this weekend.
Okay.
So folks can check that out, and there'll be links in there to get more information that I probably forgot to mention, but. Be sure and check that out. There'll be charts in there showing where the Geminid radiant will be throughout the night.
Okay, and I will link all that in the show notes below, so everybody can just click on that from this podcast and see all that information.
One more thing, there are a lot of folks who can't get up at 3 a.m. So my advice for people who have to observe in moonlight is to face away from it. The moon will be in the southeastern to southern sky, depending on the time of night you're out. So if you're limited to only watching the Geminid Meteor Shower during the evening hours, face toward the north, about halfway up. Just make sure the moon is behind you and you're not messing up your night vision there. And believe it or not, the moonlight affects slower meteors like the Geminids a lot less than it does the Perseids. Because, your average Perseid meteor is probably 2 to 5/10 of a second in duration. Well, that's pretty short, and chances are if the moon is bright, you're going to have a less of a chance seeing it. Now, Geminids, on the other hand, are closer to a half second to a full second, which means you have, double the chance of seeing that thing because it's going to be up there twice as long. And chances are the moonlight won't affect the Geminids as much as it will the Perseids.
Okay.
So all's not lost. I would expect someone from, let's take suburban skies going out at 8 o'clock and spending an hour. I bet you 10 meteors is not beyond the realm of possibility.
Okay.
And who knows, he might get a fireball at that time.
That's true.
Geminids are well known for fireballs. By the way, fireballs are any meteor that's brighter than the planet Venus, which just happens to be in the evening sky this particular month.
That's right.
So any meteor brighter than Venus, you can call it a fireball.
Okay. So what you're looking for in the way of observations is an hourly count, and then distinguishing whether it's a Geminid or it's a straggler from someplace else.
Correct.
Okay. And your sky conditions.
Right.
Okay.
And don't forget to include your location too.
Right.
It makes a big difference. Those from further south have the Geminid radiant passing overhead. If you're up near the Canadian border, it'll be further toward the south. So, that would help. Like I said, a lot of that information will be in the article I post on the ALPO website.
Okay, I'll look for that and I'll add it. Now, are there other meteor showers happening later after this one that we can talk about?
There are the Ursas, but unfortunately, that one is only 3 days after the full moon.
Oh, okay.
Which is, let's see, the 18th, actually 4 days after the full moon, on the night of December 21st and 22nd. I had a real entertaining session with the Ursas last year. There was a moon that set during the early evening hours, so I went out during the morning, and I didn't see a whole lot, maybe 10 an hour at most, but that's pretty good for that shower. And in that part of the sky, there's normally not much activity. A lot of the radiants are pretty much close to the ecliptic, which is in the southern part of the sky. So if you're looking toward the bowl of the Little Dipper, chances are it's either going to be a random meteor, or if it's near December 21st, 22nd, it's going to be an Ursa.
Okay. Well, great. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Not really. This is a good chance to see activity. So if your sky is clear, don't waste it, because you never know. The next meteor shower might be obscured by rain. So believe me.
I challenge our listeners to get out there and observe this meteor shower. It's coming up in a few days, and please get out there. And if you do an observation, please drop it in the email over to Bob. His email address is going to be in the show notes as well.
Right. Lastly, don't say, well, you know what, I'm going to save my effort for next year when there's no COVID or, stuff like this going on. Well, next year, the moon will be near its last quarter phase.
The worst time to see it.
Well, yeah, it's going to be up from probably 11 o'clock on. So,
okay.
It, like I said, not as bad as a full moon, but next year, the peak hour is going to have a moon up in the sky all the way to dawn.
Oh,
So,
my goodness.
So like 1 year out of 3 is usually perfect.
Okay.
And then the other 2, we got a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So,
well, this one doesn't sound bad.
No, there's a very good opportunity.
Yes.
So we just need to keep our fingers crossed that we'll have some clear, dry air, and let it rain on Christmas Day. No, just leave my meteor shower alone.
How does 2022 look for meteor showers?
Not good at all.
Oh, no.
Actually, it starts out well with the quadranates in early January, and by golly, we'll do a podcast on that before the new year. How's that sound?
Sounds like a plan.
But the rest of the year, the Perseids are perfectly nailed by a full moon.
Oh.
I mentioned the Geminids are going to have half moon, but actually the Orionids and the Leonids are a little better off. So,
okay.
Probably a little worse than this year, but not a total loss.
Okay. All right. Well,
plus, we have the very small possibility of a meteor outburst near Memorial Day.
Oh.
And we'll discuss that later on.
Okay.
I'm sure in May there's going to be all kinds of headlines. Best show ever coming up. well, like Comico Hotech.
Yeah.
This could be a shot in the dark.
That's true. That's true.
And if you fly halfway around the world, you might be wasting your money.
Very, very true. Well, this was fun, Bob. Thanks for coming on the podcast again.
My pleasure. Look forward to doing it again.
All right. All right, that'll do it for this special edition of the Observer's Notebook podcast. I'd like to thank Bob Lunsford for coming on again and talking about the Geminids Meteor Shower. Hey, Get out there and observe it and send your observations to Bob. I really appreciate it if you do that. You can see your name in print if you do, in the Journal of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. We upload our regular episodes of the Observer's Notebook on the 1st and 15th of every month. You can subscribe to us on iTunes. That way you never miss any episodes. And you can also hear us on Apple Radio, iHeartRadio, Soundcloud, Spreaker, Google Play, Stitcher, Amazon Echo, and Spotify. You can help support the podcast by donating to it via Patreon, where you can give up to $35 a month, where you receive 1 year's membership to the ALPO and producer credits on the podcast. And with that, I want to thank the producers of this podcast, Steve Siedentop and Michael Moyer, for the continued generous support. The link for Patreon, as well as the link for the ALPO, is in the show notes. If you'd like to get a hold of me, my email address is commentman@commentman.net, or you can get me on Twitter at @ObserversNBPod. Until next time, my hope is you always have clear and steady skies. Thanks for listening.